There's many approaches that you might want to take when you're learning a new language with a different script, but there is something that I've found over the years learning a good number of these languages that is pretty consistent and works a lot of the time. So I want to give you this broad method of how to learn a different script that works across the board. I've studied quite a few languages now with different scripts. So from Cyrillic, whether that's for Russian or for things like Macedonian for little trips, or even Serbian as well. I've done that one. I've learned some Japanese, some Chinese, some Korean, and a bit of Burmese, little bits of other languages, little bits of like Thai and things like that. Now I've been learning some Malayalam and bits of Hindi for being in India, and it's just something that gives this extra dimension to learning a language. So it's easy to ignore, right? And absolutely, you totally could. There's definitely been times when I've done that, when I've thought I just want a bit to speak. I don't necessarily need to know the script. But then I always come around and I always end up learning some of it because I just enjoy it so much. I really like that it adds this layer of intrigue and access to a language that, you know, you're walking around a place and you're able to read signs, right? Even if you can't necessarily read every word and understand everything that you read, you're able to kind of go and piece together a word from something that a few weeks, a few months before might have been completely foreign to you. And that's something really, really cool. So different scripts, as much as they sometimes might feel like a bit of a hassle, something that puts you off learning a language, it is definitely something that you can enjoy and find different ways to enjoy. So I hope that what I'm going to share with you gives you some ways that you can enjoy this, especially if you've maybe found it a bit tricky in the past or something that you want to avoid. So the first thing is to check for similarities. So you might not always be starting from zero, and the big example that comes to mind here for me was Cyrillic, where there are some letters that look like English and sound like English. There are some that look like English but are actually completely different letters, and then there are some that are brand new if you're an English speaker, an English learner. And so what I did is I had these 3 post-it notes on my wall where I broke them into these groups. I'd found the similarities, so I didn't need to spend as much time with those. I found the ones that were like, oh, be careful, you think they're similar, but they're not. And then I found the ones that were completely new. And once I broke down this new alphabet into that, it then became a lot less daunting, because it was then like, oh, actually, it's not I have to go from the start ABC and do this whole thing, ding, 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 like in rote. I'm able to break this down a little bit easier. And this just really helps to eliminate any time wasted on learning those ones that are familiar to the same extent, you know, and kind of going through the motions. Maybe you've got like flashcards or an app that you're using, and just going through with that same level of attention to those ones that don't need that same level of attention. And even if a script feels completely new, you might spot something that you perhaps weren't expecting or is slightly similar to something you've encountered before. So something that comes to mind here is with a lot of South Asian and Southeast Asian languages, you have this pattern. It's not ABC, it's k, k, g, g, n, right? That sort of flow of letters. And that is something that I encountered first with languages like Thai, Burmese, Khmer, Khmer, from travel, just from, you know, dabbling a little bit and being intrigued. And then when it came to learning Hindi in a bit more detail, or even Malayalam in a bit more detail, noticing that same pattern is like, okay, I know where we're coming from here. I know the flow of this. So there might be something that you may not expect. So don't go in thinking, this is a complete ground zero language, I know nothing. There might just be something. So check for those similarities, just helps to make your job a whole lot easier. Second is to pick your logical order. So maybe like 8, 9 times out of 10, the logical order is the order of the alphabet or the abeceda or whatever it is, right? The flow that you're given, that's kind of the ABC, the k, k, g, g, na, right? That mostly will be the logical order. But if you've checked for similarities and there is nothing, right? And maybe, you know, finding like a kid's song in that logical order isn't necessarily as easy as you would want it to be, or it has been for other languages, then finding your own logical order can be really useful. So what do I mean by logical order? Well, what's the most popular, what are the letters that are most used, because that is going to mean that you can then look at stuff, and even if you haven't finished learning the script to a point where you can just go dung 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 and understand every letter, you're able to recognize some letters here and there, which could help you out. You know, if you're trying to maybe read a menu in Arabic and you know the letter for the f, but you don't know the L yet, right? You can sort of go full, and you can say, oh, there's two F's, maybe this is an L. Do you know what I mean? You can sort of piece things together a little bit more if you've got some kind of grounding in that way. So here's how we do this. ChatGPT, ask it what is the most logical order with the letters that are most common and most used first of all, and the least used letters at the end. Give me the Georgian alphabet in that order. I've done this for Georgian as well. Give me the Malayalam alphabet in the order of the most used to least used letters. And you can even ask it for a bit of a study plan. You know, you can say, I've got 5 weeks before my trip. Give me a 5-week plan to get these letters into my brain, you know? And that, again, is just helping to speed up the process, to ease the process a little bit, and to make it feel a little less rigid, right? There's no benefit necessarily to learning in the order that it's given in an alphabet. Even in English, I have my points in the alphabet, in the English alphabet, where if I'm thinking, oh, what letter comes before, you know, this or after this? So it's like A, B, C, D, da, 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 da. Then I get to like K, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. Like that chunk is one chunk. Then there's like the Q, R, S, T, U, V, right? And then the pause, the W, X, Y, and Z. So if I'm especially at the end of the alphabet, and I'm like, I know it's X, Y, Z. What's before X, Y, Z? Kind of having to go back and do that little chunk of the song to get there, right? That's in my own language. So that natural kind of the order that you're given doesn't always have to be followed. So finding your own logical order can be a really, really useful way to go about this. To make sure you've got the most common letters first, and the others you can work on adding in. Tip number 3 here is to set 3-tier realistic goals. Now, learning a new script is one of the things that's very easy to fall into the I can do more than this camp, right? Where maybe you're doing it a bit, but you still feel like this isn't enough. I can do better than this. I should be doing more than this. And that isn't what necessarily serves you the best when you want to be doing well with something, right? Because you're then just constantly telling yourself that you're not doing enough. Not a good place to be. There is nothing less fun than trying to live up to someone else's goals. So just because someone on the internet says they learnt Hangul in 2 hours doesn't mean that you have to, that you can, that you should, that everyone else will be exactly the same. And I picked this example because I have a blog post, How to Learn Hangul in 2 Hours, because that's more or less what it was for me. Not to say that I learnt it and fully got it all up here forever and ever in 2 hours. No, but I got to grips with all the basics, and then I was able to go on and do what I needed in that 2 hours. But that 2-hour window might look different for you. That's okay. So these realistic 3-tiered goals really help to just keep the calm, keep the peace, make sure you're going to actually get to the end of that script and not just the first row of the alphabet and then finish, right? And so what does this look like? This means that you have a bare minimum, what we call a buffer goal to begin with. So your bare minimum buffer goal every day that you can do, that you know you can maintain daily, might be something as simple as revising 1 letter, right? And that means that you're not constantly under pressure to be learning something new while still adding in the revision of the others, and then it just grows and grows and grows. It might be that that is your bare minimum buffer goal. It can be more than that, absolutely, but it has to be something that you know, not just want, that you know you can stick to. And then set yourself an average goal. Now this is what you're actually aiming for most days. So your buffer goal, it happens when you're busy, things have got in the way, you haven't had a chance, or you've forgotten until the very end of the day. But your average goal is what you're really, really aiming for on a daily basis. So this might be something like 5 minutes every morning reviewing letters, right? Something that is relatively small, relatively achievable, that you know most days you'll be able to get done. But by having your buffer goal underneath that, if there's a day when your average goal doesn't happen, you're safe. You avoid that pit of negative self-talk because you've still done something. You've still done your buffer goal. Really, really good way to just help avoid falling into that trap. And then finally, set yourself a stretch goal. So absolutely, there will be times when you're like, oh yeah, I'm really, really motivated for this. Let's go, let's do more. That's great. When those days come, embrace it, have your stretch goal in place so that you know what you're aiming for on those days. So in our example, this might be something like 10 new letters, right? Something really big that you're like, yeah, I'm really going to go for it. Or maybe even on a weekend, you know that on a regular basis, you can do a bit more on a weekend day. Then you can have that stretch goal in place to be like, it's the weekend, I'm going to do more, I'm going to do those 10 new letters, and then I'm going to rein things back in for the rest of the week. You see what I mean? So it just helps to keep motivation relatively stable because you're not constantly trying too hard with the stretch goal and not constantly limiting yourself with a buffer goal. And I really love this concept, these 3-tier goals, especially for something like learning a different script, because it's something that's really easy to get hung up on and to feel like we can't move on until we're perfect, until we've finally mastered the whole script. We can't worry about speaking, or we can't worry about actually reading proper stuff until we're able to read every single word. Like, whew, if we've got this in place for learning the script, it can be something that, going into the next tip, we do alongside the learning itself. So, giving it away, tip number 4 is to learn the language simultaneously. Don't wait. Don't do the script first and then learn the language. It's the pronunciation trap. Don't learn all of the pronunciation before you start learning the words that that pronunciation fits into. So why do we do this? Because you're going to see the script that you're learning in real context all of the time from the very beginning. For example, this is a newspaper page in Malayalam that I was given when I bought some bananas. The bananas were wrapped in this newspaper page and I was like instantly, yes, please give me this packaging so I can go away now and have a look at this script and just see what I can spot and read the things. And because it's not a sign that I'm passing when I'm sat on a bus on the side of the road, because it's not something on a screen, I can, for the first time, have printed Malayalam, printed version of this language in my hands that I can be like circling and writing over, writing above when I spot a letter I know. This is going to be a really, really useful way to find the script and then be learning that language at the same time. And this is also why I shared that idea of finding your logical order earlier, because if you're using something like ChatGPT to help find that logical order, then what that means is when you get to this point where you want to be learning the language simultaneously, instantly you're spotting the most common letters in something like this. Tip number 5 is to take advantage of similar words. Don't make your life harder than it needs to be. Rather than the default advice of learning a script of just frantically copying out each letter for a whole page before you move on to the next one, you don't have to do that. You can if you want to. If you enjoy it, absolutely go ahead, do it. But don't make your life harder than it needs to be. There are probably many, many words that are already familiar to you in the written form, in the spoken form, in this new language that you're learning. So I'm thinking things like names, place names, if you're lucky, maybe like months and days of the week. Play detective with these familiar words. So grab a list of cognates from the internet, or simply head to Google Maps, zoom into a place that speaks that language, look for those place names, look for what it says underneath in the script. Zoom in a bit more, find a coffee shop, the name of a hotel, see if you can translate that in the script. Try and write your name, your friend's name, the town where you live in the script. All of these cognates and familiar words and names can be really, really useful when you're learning a new script. It doesn't have to be that you learn a bit of the script and then you learn the most useful word. You can be adding in these familiar words, like you're not necessarily needing to learn them. You're just using them to get that script practice in a much more enjoyable way than just letter. And down the line, this is also going to save you time when you're learning vocab, because really, who has the time to learn a huge long list of country names? That's kind of boring. And then finally, bring it in to every skill. Don't let your script sit on the sidelines being its own little thing where you do a bit of reading, you do a bit of writing, you do some listening, you do some speaking, and then you do some script. No, you can weave this in across the board. This just gives you extra chances to get more familiar, feel more confident with it overall. I'll give you just one idea of how you can get started with each of the core skills. So for listening, when you're listening, try to transcribe even just one word that you hear using the script. Really, really simple way to get started. Reading, again, take just the one word approach. Reading always takes more time when there's a new script to deal with. So don't worry about that. Simplify things. Just try and read one word aloud. Go from there and see how you can expand on it as you go. Speaking, a new script doesn't have to just be about the literacy side of things. So as you're learning a new word and you're saying it out loud, see if you can visualize the word in that script in your head. Just bringing it into your brain. We're not having to write anything down or read anything. We're just using our brain here to picture what we think it's going to look like. This might sound a bit weird, but there's actually a lot of research that suggests we learn stuff well when we attach imagery to it. So why not give it a go with the script itself? Writing. So unless your writing focus for a particular day is on accuracy, always attempt before checking. So always give the word a go. Always see if you can spell it out before just thinking, nope, I don't know what it is, I need to look it up. Always give yourself a chance to try. If you resort straight to checking before attempting, you're missing out on a chance to connect a little bit more, to form an extra connection with that word. And there we go. Everything that I've shared here works across the board for languages with different scripts. This is stuff that you can take into any language that is new to you, that uses a different script, and make the process easier. But if you do want to get more specific, that's where Language Life comes in, because in Language Life you have the self-study library that guides you through how to learn any language, but then you also get support and feedback from me, and that is where things get really personal. So we have our question bank, for example, where people are asking questions about specific languages. We have one-on-one support at regular points as and when you need it throughout the program that you can use to say, Lindsay, how do I do this script? Or I'm learning Malayalam, or I'm learning Georgian or Arabic. How can I do that? That's what we can do in Language Life. If you're interested, check the link in the description, and I look forward to welcoming you in. All of the YouTube things, like, subscribe, follow, share, comment, all of that stuff, and I'll see you very soon. Thank you. Bye.